Hello ladies and gentlemen, Inside Jacob's Mind here, and what is this? It's a new setup. I finally left the home that I've been in, known and loved, and moved on into the big wide world, and this is where my videos are going to take place now. So, without further ado, this is the one I've been waiting for. This is the video that I'm the most excited to create every single year. And this is the video that I put the most work in, the most heart in, the most passion in, my blood, sweat and tears, because I live for films. And I've watched pretty much everything this year. I've seen like 192 2017 release movies, just knocked the last one off yesterday. So I am ripped, roaring and ready to go. So without further ado, let's get into my top 15, because I had to do a 15. There was too many great movies this year. I couldn't let any more miss out. So it's a top 15 best movies of 2017. So before we get into the 15, as usual, I'm going to rattle off some honorable mentions, because honestly, anything in my top 50 would be is a great movie that I would recommend. But honorable mentions I have got Coco, by far the best animated film of the year. Pixar have done it again. It's an incredibly emotional, dark look about death, memory, and family. All in a kids movie. It. I thought this was going to be terrible as far as most Stephen King adaptations go, but this was fantastic. One of the best horror movies of the year, and a fantastic coming-of-age film to boot. It Comes at Night. Brilliant little horror thriller from A24. It's extremely claustrophobic and it is beautiful to look at. The Big Sick, Kumail Nanjiani's passion project, the true story about his relationship with his now wife, Emily Gordon. It's a beautiful movie about race, about love, and about humor. It's one of the best comedies of the year. Another one of the best comedies of the year, The Disaster Artist. James Franco did a fantastic job writing, he didn't write, he directed, produced, played Tommy Wiseau. It's a brilliant look that I think film fans are really going to enjoy, and it's absolutely hilarious. Baby Driver, Edgar Wright's latest movie. I think it's the weakest film he's done yet, and I do like it a little less every time, but it's still an incredibly entertaining jukebox musical with just ridiculous editing. Like, I don't know how they did it. Detroit, Catherine Bigelow's movie, was really overlooked, but it's a fantastic ensemble piece set during the Detroit riots in the 60s, and it takes a true story and creates an incredibly gripping survival thriller. My next honorable mention is The Florida Project from Sean Baker. I wasn't a fan of his last movie, Tangerine, so I was a little apprehensive, but this movie is fantastic with some incredible child performances, and Willem Dafoe is brilliant as well. So that's it for my honorable mentions. Let's get into the real shit, my top 15.
Don't they know it's the end of the world if you don't love me anymore?
Mother, the latest film from Darren Aronofsky, was one of the more divisive movies of the year. I mean, it got nominated for a bunch of Razzies, Jennifer Lawrence, but I thought it was incredible. It's a strange movie. It's about a woman who sort of lives in the middle of nowhere with her husband, Javier Bardem, and he's an artist, and shit is going weird. There's some supernatural shit going on. Random guests keep showing up at their house, and I don't really want to say too much about it, but a lot of it's a biblical allegory. I think there's a lot of stuff in there about artists and like the demand that artists receive. And I just thought it was so intense. The third act of this had my jaw on the floor. It has some disturbing imagery, and I thought it was just gripping from beginning to end. And Jennifer Lawrence is absolutely incredible in it. It sort of made me like her again. I think this is her next best performance behind Silver Linings Playbook, and it's a shame to see her get Razzie nominated for this, because I thought it was an incredible performance, and really, I don't think Darren Aronofsky's made a bad film yet. He's one of my favourites. One I saw just this week, Phantom Thread. I wasn't sure, the trailers look kind of boring, just awards bait. I've never been super sold on PTA, but this movie was just brilliant. Daniel Day-Lewis is fantastic, like one of the best performances of the year. I don't know why he's not being talked about to win the Oscar rather than Gary Oldman. He plays this sort of fashion designer, and it's about his relationship with a woman named Alma, and it's sort of a toxic relationship, and the movie's just a really interesting interplay between them, the constant shifting of power dynamics, and just, he's a prick, and just the way he plays it, with such a quiet sort of anger, like just the ticks in his face whenever she chews too loudly or butters her toast too loudly, and you can just see like the quiet rage seething underneath him. And you know, this is in a year with a few fucked up love stories, this is the most fucked up love story, and I think it's one of Paul Thomas Anderson's best movies yet. This is one I saw a while ago, and I just have not been able to get it out of my head. Good Time. Directed by the Safdie brothers. Fantastic directors, I think. I went back and watched their previous movie, Heaven Knows What, about drug addicts in New York. That was fantastic too, and they just have such a distinct style. This movie kind of, it's like something Scorsese would have done in the early 70s, or Michael Mann, but it still kind of stands on its own as an original thing. And Robert Pattinson is next level in this. He plays Connie, a desperate sort of criminal who gets his brother into trouble by making him help him rob a bank. His brother's like mentally challenged, and the movie's sort of one wild night in New York of him trying to save his brother, and really he may not be saving him, he may just be making it worse. But he's kind of delusional, he thinks he's smarter than he is, but he is smart, he's manipulative, and he basically ruins the lives of anyone he comes into contact with. The music is incredible, it's just so intense. This movie is like the living embodiment of having a panic attack, and it's on Netflix now. Strongly recommend checking out Good Time. We thought this movie wasn't necessary when it was announced. We were like, why are they making a goddamn Blade Runner sequel? But then we saw, Ryan Gosling's in it. Denis Villeneuve is directing it. Denis Villeneuve is the freaking man. And it comes out, and we were like, wow, that is incredible. It actually takes a bit to grow on you. The first time I saw it, I was a little lukewarm, and then I saw it again and again. I saw this 4 times, and a testament to how well this film is paced, that I saw it 4 times. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes long. I saw it 4 times and didn't really get bored at all. I probably would have gone to see it a 5th if it was around for longer. It's just beautiful to look at from start to finish. It's one of Roger Deakins' best works, and what I love about it is that it's an art house blockbuster. It flopped at the box office, unfortunately, but Villeneuve made the right movie for a Blade Runner sequel. It's about character, it's about story, there's not a lot of action scenes. Officer K, played by Ryan Gosling, is an incredibly compelling character, and the whole movie is sort of a journey of him discovering things about himself and having things ripped away from him, and it's emotional, it's heartbreaking, you do feel for his character, and it's a great movie to go in without knowing anything, because the trailers didn't really give away anything past the first 5 minutes, and I really, really appreciated the way they made this, and even though it flopped, it's incredible, and I think it's something that's going to be talked about for a very long time. Now, following one sequel we thought wasn't necessary, with another sequel we thought wasn't necessary, this is a movie that came out pretty early in the year, Trainspotting 2, and, you know, nobody wanted it, and even after it came out, nobody seemed to care. I saw this in, like, April, and it blew me away. I watched the first Trainspotting probably about a year ago, and I really, really loved that too. It's one of the best movies I've seen in a while. And this movie might even be better. Danny Boyle and the 4 actors, you know, Ewan Bremner, Ewan McGregor, Robert Carlyle, the other guy, Johnny Lee Miller, they all come back as their characters from the first one, and, you know, the first one left off with Renton sort of screwing his friends out of the money and running away. And this movie's like 20 years later, Renton's back in Scotland and sort of reconnects with these guys, and what's great about this movie is that it doesn't play like a greatest hits album. It's not like, hey, remember Trainspotting? The director's matured, the cast have matured, so why wouldn't the characters have matured? It does still have, you know, the sort of... it's the spirit of Trainspotting. It still has the spirit of Trainspotting, but it's a more mature movie about growing old and about friendship and, you know, still some stuff about crime in there, but so stylistically directed by Danny Boyle. It's brilliantly edited, the music is great, and it's genuinely emotional at times. The performances are incredible, and I just don't know why nobody seemed to talk about or care about this movie, because I think it's absolutely one of the best of the year, and, you know, right up there with the first Trainspotting. I hope it gets the same sort of cult following that the first one did. But I doubt it. I think people wrote this one off before it even came out. Wyn River. Now, Taylor Sheridan is really putting himself on the map lately. He's written like 3 or 4 movies, and they've all been incredible. Hell or High Water, Sicario. Now this, and I think this may even be the best of the 3. It's another sort of modern type of Western, but it's set in Wyoming on this Indian reservation called Wyn River. And Jeremy Renner plays Corey. He's this guy, he's a hunter, he sort of captures animals and, you know, just sort of helps around the community. Until one day, a young Native American girl is found murdered in the snow, and Elizabeth Olsen, an FBI agent, sort of enlists the help of Renner's character to help her solve the mystery, and it's a beautiful blend, because it's like, it does have the pulpy thriller elements of what we've come to expect from Taylor Sheridan, you know. It is bloody, it is incredibly tense, like the guy's a master of building tension. There's a standoff scene in it that is like, and it features maybe the best use of a flashback I've ever seen in a film. But what's great about this is that it's quite beautiful, and it's quite sad, and it's very, very heartbreaking about a real issue, about, you know, how underreported rapes and murders of Native American women are, and it's a very personal story for Taylor Sheridan. And you know, it does have elements of a revenge thriller, but you don't leave saying, yeah, get the motherfuckers. You leave saying, shit, I just really wish human beings would love each other more. And, you know, it's a really, really strong achievement. I just think it's a brilliant, brilliant film, and it might be Taylor Sheridan's best yet. When I first saw the trailer for this movie in like January, this is what I said. This movie looks so bad that I hope it's a joke. I'd just like to go back and punch previous me right in the mouth for being a moron. Get Out is incredible, and it's going to go down as a classic of the horror genre. Jordan Peele, who I've been a fan of for a long time for his work as a part of Key and Peele, has created one of the most brilliant social satire horror movies we have ever seen. The first time I saw Get Out, it was one of the most fun theatrical experiences I've ever had. The whole crowd was into it. They were cheering, they were crying, they were laughing. This movie just has everything. Alright, so it's about this dude named Chris. He's in a relationship with his white girlfriend Rose, and he has to go meet her parents. And, you know, it's a scenario that would often be played for maybe, you know, wacky comedy or something, but no, we get there and there is something much more sinister going on. And it's a look about how racism is still alive and well in the world today, you know. Sure, we got a lot of liberals and progressives out there, and Obama was president for 8 years, but that doesn't mean racism is gone, because this shit still exists. And what this movie does, it takes aim at kind of us, white liberals and progressives, who are like, oh, hey, I would have voted for Obama 3 times, you know, look at me, I have black friends, my man, you know, that sort of shit, and how that can be just as toxic in certain ways. And what's the most brilliant thing about Get Out is that despite having this brilliant, brilliant message, super smart social commentary, what it does is it never forgets to be a horror movie. It never forgets to be entertaining. It still has all your scares and your thrills and your blood and guts and action. And on top, like, it's like 2 great movies in one. And I cannot commend Jordan Peele enough. Like, I'm so proud of what he has achieved here, and I hope this opens the door for him to create more movies like this, and not only him, but for more black filmmakers to create stuff like this and, you know, get this sort of shit greenlit, because it's just fantastic and I want more of it. I've seen this like 6 times. It's brilliant. You notice more stuff every single time you watch it. Logan had no right to be as good as it was. But, you know, we finally got the Wolverine we wanted. James Mangold, Hugh Jackman, they fought for the R rating, and, you know, we got it. This movie is Wolverine, and it's just incredible from start to finish. The musical score is amazing. Hugh Jackman gives one of his career best performances. Daphne Keane is incredible, and I hope this puts her on the map. It's Old Man Logan, you know, he's breaking down, and, you know, it's a superhero movie, a rare superhero movie where we look past the glory days, you know. They're not going around saving anyone anymore. Charles Xavier's an old senile man. He can't control his powers anymore. He probably killed all the X-Men. Hugh Jackman, Logan's just driving a limo and trying to get by and trying to, you know, escape on a boat. And he gets pulled back into it, and it's dark, it's gritty, it's violent, it's sad, it's heartbreaking, and it is brilliant. I think Logan is the best superhero film ever made. There are a very select few that have hit that level for me, and Logan absolutely does that. I don't think I can watch the end of this movie without crying. It is... I don't know. Logan is phenomenal, and I hope this is a game changer in the superhero genre. I hope it gives studios the confidence to create more bold stuff like this. I'm so happy that Logan exists. This really has been a year of brilliant and intelligent blockbusters, and let's add another one to the pile with War for the Planet of the Apes. Now, I already had really high hopes for this because this has been one of the best modern trilogies we have. Rise was a really, really solid popcorn movie that sort of set the groundworks for Matt Reeves to come in and just direct the shit out of it. Dawn is a flat-out masterpiece, in my opinion. You know, there's a bunch of scenes where it's just subtitled, it's just apes talking, it's like a foreign movie, and to put that in a blockbuster that's meant to sell big tickets, it's so bold. It's really, really dark, and it's all been about setting up this war between the apes and the humans that we know is coming. And what's brilliant about these movies, there's not clear-cut heroes and villains. Both sides are flawed. You understand where both sides are coming from, but by the end of Dawn, you understand that they cannot coexist. And it's a sad truth, but it's a truth. And Caesar tries to make peace, but eventually he's like, you know, we have to look after our own kind. And one of the best character arcs in the history of cinema. I'm so glad Matt Reeves got to complete his trilogy the way it was meant to be done, and this movie just has everything. It's beautiful to look at. The musical score from Michael Giacchino is phenomenal. The ending is just... this movie is insane, and it caps off one of the greatest trilogies we have ever freaking seen. Now, I just talked about Apes being one of the greatest trilogies we've ever seen. Let me tell you, if Paddington 3 is on the level of Paddington 2, this trilogy might just beat it. Now, Paddington 2, it didn't come out until 2018 in the States, but I saw it in Australia early December, so it's on the list. And let me tell you, Paddington 2 is a goddamn family masterpiece. I'm being serious. I've been telling everyone I know to watch this freaking movie. It made me go back and retroactively appreciate the first one more. The first one is incredible, and it's just... it is everything. If I ever have kids, this is like the only movie I'm gonna let them watch. It just has such a beautiful message because these movies are set in a fantasy land where human beings are good to each other. And Paddington Bear is just such a fantastic character. He's so wholesome and he's so kind. And you know, he's a bear walking around in London and he doesn't quite understand how the world works. He's figuring it out, but you know, he does make mistakes and the movie doesn't make fun of him for it. It doesn't treat him like an idiot. People are understanding. It's a great metaphor for sort of immigration, but ultimately just being kind to people. And you know, this movie's sort of him living with the Brown family who took him in the first one, and Hugh Grant plays the villain. basically he steals this valuable pop-up book, and Paddington gets framed for it. And you know, there's some scenes of Paddington in prison that is very reminiscent of the Grand Budapest Hotel. Brendan Gleeson is hilarious as a tough inmate, but Hugh Grant as the villain it's his best work in years. He got BAFTA nominated for it. He is so funny, so charming, and so evil. It's just brilliant. There are so many great little self-referential jokes in it, and just the production design is so smart. There are little hints in the background and little jokes in the background, and every single frame of this movie has had so much heart, love, and care put into it. Paul King is an absolute beast. I hope he comes back to do the third one. Oh my god, this movie is incredible. Seriously, watch them both if you haven't. I've seen this 3 times. I'm probably going to watch it more. And it just has the 2 most adorable creatures in the world, Paddington and Sally Hawkins. Alright, we are into the top 5, the heavy hitters. These 5 movies here, I really struggled to put in order. Like, I flipped them around so much. They are all incredible and have given me so much joy and pleasure. And number 5 is I, Tonya, as you already know. It's like the director, Craig Gillespie, and the producers and the writers and Margot Robbie. It's like before they made this movie, they got together in a room and had a meeting and said, right, how do we impress Jacob? Because this movie, it's like it was engineered in a lab specifically for me. It's got everything I like. The way it uses music, the camera works, the zooms, the tracking shots, just the storytelling, the fourth wall breaking. It's like, I mean, sure, it's probably ripping off The Wolf of Wall Street, but hey, it's better than a movie that's not like The Wolf of Wall Street, because this movie might be the most entertaining film of the year. The first time I watched this, I was almost shedding a couple tears in the theater just because I was having so much fun. Margot Robbie is fantastic in it. Sebastian Stan should have been Oscar nominated. He's incredible in this movie, and it's just a really fun retelling of the events that actually sneaks up on you with emotion. It has a subtle sort of emotional hit to it that you're not really expecting. And, you know, the movie tells you right off, like, you know, we probably don't have all the facts, you know. And the way it does it, it's framed around these interviews from all the people who are involved. Tonya Harding, her husband, you know, and the bodyguard and stuff like that. And everybody's sort of disagreeing with each other. Like, you'll be like, oh no, that part didn't happen. And it's really entertaining like that. But it kind of paints a picture of how the media can take things out of proportion. And while Tonya Harding was not perfect, but, you know, did she really deserve to have her career ruined like that? I don't know, really. It's up to you to decide. But I thought, as a film, this is just top-notch stuff. I absolutely loved it. One of the earlier releases in the year that has stuck around, this is Dunkirk. I'm in awe of this movie. I think it is Christopher Nolan's best work, and it's become kind of a popular thing to hate on Christopher Nolan for some reason by a lot of people, but dude, the guy's a master of his craft, and Dunkirk is him just sort of perfecting everything that he has learned and everything that he loves about filmmaking, because I think this might be the most flawless movie of the year. For what he wanted to achieve, this movie has no holes, no leaks. It is just incredible. The sort of 3-way storytelling structure, because we have the soldiers on the beach set like a day after evacuation, and I don't know, but there's 3 different timelines before the evacuation. There's the soldiers on the beach, there's the fighter pilots with Tom Hardy, and there are the boats, you know, the soldiers on the civilians coming on boats to rescue the soldiers. And it's very British, and it actually ends up being quite a moving tale about a nation coming together to try and get their troops home. And not to mention, it's just intense. Like, this is one of the most intense thrillers of the year. Once it ramps up, when all the 3 storylines culminate in the 3rd act, when they're all sort of all the boats are getting blown up and they're falling in the water and they're trying to get rescued, it is ridiculously tense, and I absolutely loved it. This film is gorgeous to look at. I think it deserves the Oscar for Best Cinematography. It is... like just, you forget to breathe. After the movie, you're like, oh right, breathing exists. Holy crap, this movie is so intense. Christopher Nolan is the man. All the performances were great, and by not focusing on one individual character, by focusing on a bunch, it makes you care more about the 400,000 soldiers as a whole. So by doing this, every single death feels like a tragedy. It's not just like when the main characters die and everyone else is expendable. Every single time someone gets blown up or drowns or burned to death, it's like, oh my god, no, that's a young life ending, because it's a survival movie. It's just about these young soldiers who are basically kids just trying to get home, and there's something about that we can all relate to, I think. And I think Dunkirk is brilliant. Here it is, the movie that's probably going to win Best Picture at the Oscars, and the movie that I was probably looking forward to the most through the second half of the year. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Now, I am a huge Martin McDonagh fan. In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths are 2 of my favourite films of all time, so like, you have no idea how hyped I was for this, and he delivered. He's delivered a movie that's right up there with the other 2. I don't know if it's quite as good as the other 2 in my eyes, but it's still just... I don't even have any words. I've talked about this movie so much to friends and family. I've seen it 4 freaking times. And let me just start by saying Frances McDormand is an absolute force of nature in this movie as Mildred Hayes, a woman whose daughter was raped and murdered about a year ago, and the cops haven't done anything about it, so she puts up these billboards outside of town to mess with the cops, and it's sort of about her going to war with the cops. And what I love is the dynamic between her and the Chief Willoughby, played by Woody Harrelson, who is fantastic, because, you know, they are going up against each other, and he's trying to get her to take down the billboards, and she's angry at him for not having done anything about the murder, but there's a sort of respect between them, and both characters do have this understanding despite this kind of battle that they're in. And what's great about this movie is that everyone is flawed. Mildred isn't some crusading hero, you know, some of her logic is flawed too, and the core message of the movie is don't fight hate with hate, because it will just get you nowhere. Sam Rockwell as Officer Dixon, like the sort of racist, homophobic deputy cop, he's fantastic. He's one of the best characters of the year, and I know a lot of people had problems with him and where he goes. I'm not going to spoil the movie, but I thought it was one of the most compelling things I saw in a movie this year, and when everything wraps up in the third act, it's just... the only way I can say it is satisfying. This movie is really, really satisfying story-wise because it's real. The movie doesn't give you the easy answers. It doesn't wrap up the plot in neat, tiny little bows, because real life doesn't give you closure, and that is what's brilliant about 3 Billboards. The performances, it probably has the best screenplay of the year, and I just cannot wait to see where Martin McDonagh goes from here, because the dude is the modern master of pitch black comedy.
Oh, to see without my eyes, the first time that you kissed me, boundless.
I saw this in October at a film festival here in Adelaide, and let me tell you, I have not stopped thinking about it since. This was my favourite for quite a while until something came along and dethroned it, but Call Me By Your Name is one of the most moving experiences I have had in a movie theatre in a very, very long time. And, you know, it's a gay romance is how it's being described, but it's really a lot more than that, because what this movie does differently from a lot of LGBT movies is that it doesn't make a big deal about it. It's first and foremost a love story, and it's never like, oh, whoa, society is shaming them, you know, they're ashamed of themselves for being gay. No, it's like a love story, and it's about falling in love with someone and, you know, the fear of wondering whether or not they love you back. And that's what's beautiful about Call Me By Your Name. It is a love story, it's about family, and Timothée Chalamet, let me tell you, probably one of my top 2 performances this year. The kid is so brave in this. He's only 21 years old, and I think he should win the Oscar, but he is phenomenal. The things he does with his eyes. There's a scene at the end of the film, a 3-minute unbroken take, that is just, it's so challenging and brave, but he absolutely nailed every goddamn frame of it. The dude is amazing. And Armie Hammer is fantastic as well as Oliver. He's sort of like a early 20s something student that he falls for. He's there working for Elio's father. And the movie takes its time, you know, it's slow paced, it's a slow build up to this sort of romance that we see, and the way the third act comes together, it's powerful, man. It is really, really powerful. And let me also shout out Michael Stuhlbarg, who plays Elio's father in this. He's phenomenal. He has this monologue at the end of the film that just brings me to tears. One of the best film fathers in recent memory, and Call Me By Your Name is just a beautiful, tender, sweet, sexy film, and I cannot wait to watch it again and again. It's really, really beautiful. And the two original songs by Sufjan Stevens are just amazing. I've always kind of said that romance was one of my least favourite genres, but I think I have to stop saying that because last year, my favourite movie of the year, a romance, La La Land. This year, second favourite movie of the year, a romance, Call Me By Your Name. And my favourite movie of the year, ladies and gentlemen, is The Shape of Water. Just call me a hopeless romantic, I guess. I've always kind of liked to think of myself as a romantic. I don't know, I like the idea of love and falling in love and stuff, and I really, really like this sort of thing. And The Shape of Water is Guillermo del Toro's most personal film yet, and I believe his best since Pan's Labyrinth, which is another masterpiece. But The Shape of Water, it's a beautiful film about the power of love and just about the feeling of being incomplete, because all the characters in this movie have a part of them that's missing, and they're all just trying to sort of fill that void in their heart. And the main character, Eliza, played by Sally Hawkins, who, after this movie, I kind of just went on a downward spiral of falling in love with her and watching all her movies, because she is just absolutely incredible. She's incredible in every single thing she does, and this is her best performance yet. She plays a mute woman, Eliza, and, you know, it's set in the 1950s, and she's a janitor at this government facility, and her best friend's Richard Jenkins, a gay man who lives next door to her, and, you know, it's a really, really great friendship, but she's still seeking something more. They set her character up with a lot of desire, and that's what's great about it. She's not some sort of pure, innocent person. She has a lot of desire sexually and romantically, and she still leads a full life despite, you know, kind of being treated like shit by society because of her disability. And she works at this government facility where they get this fish creature, an aquatic merman sort of thing, and you know, it's being mistreated by the scientists, and they kind of want to kill it and experiment on it to see how it works, and she kind of befriends it, gives it some eggs, plays some music for it, and the movie goes from there. It is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. At the face of it, I've just described you the plot, it sounds strange. It does sound strange, and it is strange, but if you're in the zone for it, this is an incredibly beautiful look at just love, and it's a metaphor for, you know, the monster sees her as she is. It doesn't see her as being incomplete. You know, they're just there for each other, and every character has something like that. Richard Jenkins' character, he's like, where did my life go? And he's bold, he wants his hair back, he's always wearing a toupee. Michael Shannon, the villain, he's got a couple fingers missing. There's a side plot that I would consider a spoiler that also kind of has themes like this, and it is just incredible to look at too. Guillermo del Toro, the cinematography is amazing, the music is amazing. They've all kind of put it together to feel like a classical film. Lots of old music, the 1950s setting. She lives on top of a movie theater, so, you know, as a film fan, it kind of, you know, appealed to my taste as well. But it's just incredibly beautiful movie. It's poetic. It's a fairy tale, because that's what Guillermo del Toro does best. He loves his monsters and creatures, and he loves his fairy tales, and, you know, you've got your narration at the start about princesses and tales of love and loss and monsters, and it's so beautiful. The final shot and scene of this movie just, you know, gets me right here. It is absolute poetry, and it is one of the most beautiful things I have seen in a long time, and all the performances are incredible. Richard Jenkins, Michael Shannon, Michael Stuhlbarg, who is in both of my favourite movies of the year, are all incredible, but Sally Hawkins gives a performance for the ages in this. She doesn't speak a word, and she conveys so much more than most other actors ever could, just with her eyes. There's a scene where she's signing really aggressively, and it is one of the most powerful pieces of acting I have ever seen. Half the time I'm watching her, I forget she's even mute, because she's just that good and is such a fully realized character. And The Shape of Water is just phenomenal, and it's my number one because I just have not been able to stop thinking about it since the first time I saw it. It's always on my mind. I've listened to the soundtrack probably 30 times. As I said before, it started this obsession with Sally Hawkins in my brain. She's one of the best actresses we have right now. And yeah, I love this movie very much. I recommend it to anyone because it's still in theaters now here in Australia. I've seen it 4 times, and it will not be the last time. Good job, Guillermo del Toro. Fantastic stuff. I can't wait to see where he goes next, and just to keep telling these personal stories, because you can really feel how important it is to him in every shot, and just his confidence. He knows what he's doing, and he knows how he can achieve it, because the movie takes a few bold steps, but the way it handles them, it nails it. Absolutely nails it. God. What's it been, like 45 minutes? Ugh, I always go over long with these, but you know, this is my life. This is what I do every year. This is what I spend so much goddamn money on every year, trying to watch films and stuff. So I really appreciate you checking this video out. I really have a lot of fun making it, and a lot of fun watching all these movies to put it together. So I recommend everything here to you. If you've seen any of them, let me know what you thought. If you decide to check some out and enjoy them, let me know. And let me know what your favourites of the year were, because, I'm just one asshole. You don't have to listen to me. But thank you so very much for watching, and here's to another great year for film, 2018. I'm hoping.